Good afternoon, and welcome to the DCTV News at Noon program.
This program is brought to you by the Southwest TV Translator Association and supported by the Dolores County Broadcasting Network on DCTV.
The News at Noon program is the best assembly of news and local weather for the Four Corners region. Give us your feedback and news alerts at 677-4119.
With all that said, I'm Kendra Cook, and my co-hosts are Kelsey Kiesling and Jerry Tope. And now, here's what's in the news for May 24th, 2016. According to the Durango Herald report, New Mexico filed a lawsuit Monday in federal court against the EPA, its contractor, and two Colorado mine owners over the Gold King mine spill's impact on the state. The lawsuit, filed in U.S. District Court in New Mexico, names the EPA and its administrator, Gina McCarthy, Environmental Restoration LLC, Kinross Gold Corp., Kinross Gold USA Inc., and Sunnyside Gold Corp. as defendants. Kinross is the parent company of Sunnyside. Along with seeking compensation for environmental and economic damages related to the August 5, 2015 Gold King mine spill, the lawsuit demands that the defendants abate the imminent and substantial threats emanating from the mines in Colorado and remediate residual contamination from the Gold King mine releases in New Mexico's surface waters and sediments. The state of Colorado and the owner of the Gold King mine were not named in the lawsuit filed Monday, although in March the New Mexico Environment Department filed notice of intent to sue those parties as well. A spokesman with Kinross Gold Corp. Responded in an email to a request for comment. Quote, Kinross Gold and Sunnyside Gold were not involved and have no responsibility regarding the incident on August 5, 2015, and Kinross and Sunnyside never owned or operated the Gold King mine. We will vigorously defend ourselves from this legal action. The lawsuit claims the root cause of the disaster dates back more than 20 years to Sunnyside Gold's attempt to block acid mine drainage by building bulkheads in drainage tunnels below the mine. The owners of the Gold King and Sunnyside mines have disputed the source of the wastewater buildup. It was that buildup drainage that spilled from the Gold King mine when contractors working for the EPA breached the mine, the lawsuit says. About 3 million gallons of wastewater containing such heavy metals as arsenic, lead, cadmium, copper, mercury, and zinc surged into Cement Creek and subsequently into the Animas and San Juan rivers.
According to the Durango Herald, a Colorado Springs man with multiple felony warrants was taken into custody without incident Sunday night after a 9-hour manhunt in the San Juan National Forest. Nicholas Jackson, 26, was being held Monday in the La Plata County Jail without bail. The incident started during the day when someone reported a man and a woman possibly stealing wood from a stacked pile at the South Mineral Campground near Silverton, said San Juan County Sheriff Bruce Conrad. After making contact with the couple, it was learned that Jackson had felony warrants from Indiana and the Virgin Islands for dangerous drugs. After realizing he was going to be arrested, Jackson ran across Mineral Creek and into the wilderness, where he remained for 9 hours, Conrad said. Deputies called a canine unit and beat through the bushes for a while, but eventually decided to let the cold temperatures drive him out, which worked. We basically let Mother Nature do the work, Conrad said. It was a pretty long day for us. Jackson, who is fairly large, has a history of resisting arrest and dangerous contacts with law enforcement, Conrad said. So law enforcement decided to clear the popular campground and close a section of the road which services the Ice Lakes trailhead.
From the Durango Herald, leaders of Utah's roughly $6 billion outdoor recreation industry joined a conservation group Monday to launch a billboard campaign criticizing a push by state officials to take control of vast swaths of public land from the federal government. The billboards going up in Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and Nevada on Monday feature images of mountain bikers and warn that public lands are under attack in Utah. Jennifer Rocala, the executive director of the Denver-based conservation group Center for Western Priorities, which is behind the billboards, said, as people make their summer vacation plans, we want to raise awareness of what could happen in Utah if Utah politicians succeed in taking over public lands. Rocala and recreation officials argue Utah would have to sell off public land or ramp up drilling and mining to be able to afford management costs, which would encroach on or close off pristine outdoor spaces. State GOP lawmakers have been urging Utah's Attorney General to sue the federal government with the hope of gaining control of about 30 million acres. The lawsuit is expected to cost up to $14 million. Proponents of the lawsuit argue that the state's claim lies in the Utah Enabling Act, which led to Utah's statehood. Supporters contend that the state would be a better manager and that local control would allow Utah to make money from taxes and development rights on those acres. The land demand does not include national parks, wilderness areas, and national monuments. Attorney General Sean Reyes has not said if he'll pursue the case. Governor Gary Herbert's spokesman, John Cox, called the billboard campaign another out-of-state interest group telling Utahns that we shouldn't be allowed to manage our own public lands. GOP State Representative Ken Ivory, who has spearheaded the lands push, said the group is fear-mongering and that federal control chokes local economies and leads to mismanagement such as overgrown forest ripe for catastrophic wildfires.
According to the Cortez Journal, the Montezuma County Planning Department is considering a county-wide tax to help offset an expected decline in revenue from oil and gas giant Kinder Morgan's CO2 production, which contributes about 60% of county property tax revenue. The McElmo Dome and Doe Canyon fields are expected to play out in 50 to 75 years, and with it, revenues depend on by county government, school districts, emergency and law enforcement, social services, roads and water districts. The county is bracing for a significant drop in CO2 tax revenues as early as 2016 because of the decline in oil prices. The price of CO2 rises and falls with oil prices because it is used for oil recovery from underperforming wells. We are looking for ways to fill the gap with Kinder Morgan when Kinder Morgan can't fill the coffers, said County Planning Director Leanne Milligan. The Planning Board came up with the sales tax idea after being tasked with exploring economic opportunities including internet broadband and the paths to Mesa Verde Trail. A county sales tax of 1 to 3% would generate $5 million to $10 million per year and would be funded in part by tourists and out-of-town visitors, said Planning Commissioner Bob Clayton. Promoting commercial solar farms and hemp production could also help drive the economy, the Planning Board said, and lifting the county's ban on retail marijuana could bring in more tax revenues as well. The County Commission has until July 29th to inform the county clerk that it wants to include an issue on the November ballot.
From the Grand Junction Sentinel, a defense bill approved by the U.S. House would raise pay for the military, upgrade equipment, and wait for it, stop an 11-state plan for recovering the greater sage grouse. The provision would delay until 2025 spending by any federal agencies to make any finding about the bird under the Endangered Species Act. That would give states time to launch their own conservation efforts without heavy-handed federal interference, said U.S. Representative Scott Tipton, Republican, Colorado. The sage grouse provision came under fire from environmental organizations that said the provision had no place in the defense measure and noted that a similar 6-year provision by Senator Cory Gardner, Republican, Colorado, was dropped from the 2015 bill. A 1-year measure was included in a 2014 budget compromise, however. Environmental organizations predicted the provision would die in congressional negotiations. The provision would ground efforts drafted by the Bureau of Land Management and Forest Service that amended some 100 land use plans drawn up by those agencies that affect 67 million acres in the bird's 11-state western range. It also would delay any findings by the Interior Department under the Endangered Species Act affecting the greater sage grouse through September 30th, 2025.
According to the Cortez Journal, for decades, the Exide battery melting plant emitted lead, arsenic, and other pollutants into the air and soil in and around Vernon, a southeast Los Angeles neighborhood. The plant was mostly decommissioned in 2014 and finally shuttered in 2015, but it took California until this year to gather and report data on 10,000 contaminated homes nearby, where hundreds of children had high blood lead levels. It took another year for the state to set aside money to start a cleanup program. That will most likely start in 2017, long after the damage was done. Even though we have understood lead's health consequences for decades, a lack of funding, data, and standardization of testing in the U.S. has made it nearly impossible to know about problem areas until the impacts are too late to prevent. 7 out of 11 western states plus Alaska do not report their lead levels to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which has a national database of blood lead levels, making this region's data the most elusive in the country. Every year, 500,000 children in the U.S. suffer from lead poisoning. Most exposure comes from lead-based paint, which was banned in 1978 but is still found in many homes. But high lead levels are also found in water and soil across the U.S., including in rural areas. So even though western states don't have as many large urban areas where lead risk is perceived as the highest, small, widely distributed sources of lead pollution in rural areas still pose a major risk to children. The perspective of the big cities tend to drown out the smaller communities, says Bryce Lanphier, a professor at Simon Fraser University in British Columbia who studies lead in children. Because of that, certain sources of lead, like mining and milling and smelting, game meat and shooting ranges, get less attention. And now, here's our weather report.
The low-pressure system over the northwest continues to generate a southwest flow over our local area and will do so through the week. Breezy mornings with afternoon windy conditions will continue. Yesterday, computer models had predicted a slight chance of isolated showers and thunderstorms in higher elevations with better chances Thursday and Friday. But the latest estimates are less than half the amounts hoped for earlier and continue to drop as the incoming system is weakening steadily. The bottom line is that conditions will be basically dry and breezy for the most part, with no significant changes expected for the rest of May for the Dove Creek area. An upper level low over southern New England in our national forecast will slowly weaken and move eastward out over the western Atlantic by Wednesday morning. Showers and thunderstorms will develop over parts of New England and the mid-Atlantic coast today. That will end over New England by Wednesday morning. A front over southeastern Canada will move eastward into parts of the northeast tomorrow. Showers and thunderstorms will develop over parts of northern New England tomorrow afternoon and evening. Showers and thunderstorms will develop over parts of the Pacific Northwest to California. Some showers are likely in northern Nevada, northern Utah, and southern Wyoming as for today and tomorrow. Western Gulf of Mexico moisture continues to move northward over the southern and central plains into the upper Great Lakes and middle Mississippi Valley. This will swing into parts of the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley tomorrow. Showers and thunderstorms continue over the southern and central plains and will move to the northeast to the upper Mississippi Valley and upper Great Lakes today. This heavy rainfall will continue and move slowly northeastward and broaden through tomorrow at least. Flash flood conditions and severe thunderstorms will blanket the central and southern plains today and tomorrow, then spread to the deep south and southeast by Thursday and Friday. Rain and severe thunderstorm activity will be seen in the deep south for Thursday and Friday. And in our high temps, we're expecting near 70 with a few degrees warmer for the weekend. Lows will be in the upper 30s through the week, then hover around 40 for the weekend. Some cloudiness most of the time, but there are no real hopes of moisture as of the latest computer models as far as our Four Corners and broadcast area are concerned. Now back to the news.
According to the Durango Herald, it's official. There will be a whitewater release on the lower Dolores River below McPhee Dam, the first since 2011. Reservoir managers have announced a 10-day spill at an approximate rate of 1,000 cubic feet per second. However, the plan is to begin the release the first weekend of June instead of over Memorial Day, as forecasted last week. There will be a spill, and by pushing it forward, we're setting up the boaters for a longer season with improved rafting flows, said Mike Preston, manager of the Dolores Water Conservancy District. Warmer weather beyond the current 5-day forecast could accelerate the start of the spill by a few days. McPhee will fill and provide full farmer allocations with an estimated leftover water for rafting. Cooler, stormy weather and significant snowpack holding in the mountains forced managers to adjust the timing of the spill until the first weekend of June. Reservoir managers are waiting on a second peak runoff from remaining snowpack. Preston said the delay is to avoid the possibility of two small spills and their associated ramp-up and ramp-down water needs. For safety, spills are gradually increased 200 cubic feet per second at a time. then reversed at the end of the controlled spill.
Reported in the Durango Herald, the House Committee on Natural Resources held a hearing last Thursday to examine deficiencies in transparency in the Department of the Interior. Led by Chairman of the Subcommittee on Energy and Mineral Resources, Representative Doug Lamborn, Republican from Colorado, the hearing focused on key environmental issues that the committee says lack transparency in their regulatory processes, including fracking and other natural gas production. Lamborn said in his opening statement, when reviewing the seemingly infinite mass of regulations that the Department of the Interior has put forward over the past several years, we have seen a failure to adhere to these sound principles of transparency. The committee heard testimony from 5 expert witnesses from the private sector. The discussion included how difficult it is to receive accurate and timely data on issues in the department's jurisdiction, including the August 5, 2015 Gold King mine spill. Lamborn said in trying to understand how the EPA perpetuated one of the worst spills on federal lands, the documents sent to our committee by the department were redacted as if they contained nuclear missile codes. Getting accurate data on permitting timelines has taken months and still are not accurate. One of the witnesses, Kathleen Sagama, Vice President of Government and Public Affairs for the Western Energy Alliance, testified about multiple problems with department-reported data related to oil and gas, including inconsistently reported data and officials focusing more on covering political mistakes than on putting out good information. She said the data is key to the public to understanding oil and gas operations on federal lands. The subcommittee will hold a second oversight hearing of the Department of the Interior this week, focusing on corruption in the department.
According to the Durango Herald, sad news struck Silverton on Sunday when the town's longtime protector, official mascot, and resident wolf dog, Wolfie, died. For 11 years, the crossbreed, a hulking shock of fuzzy black fur with an intense stare, has been an elusive fixture of Silverton. He first wandered into town in 2005 as an unwelcome stray to some residents who were afraid that Wolfie was eating pets and needed to be put down. But over time, Wolfie went from feared beast to beloved protector. Though he remained feral and perpetually wary of human hands, Wolfie was said to be a fiercely loyal town guardian, credited for warding off predatory wildlife from house pets and Silvertonians. Eventually, he was coaxed into retirement in the fenced-in yard of Dean Bosworth and Paula Troutner. Neither Bosworth nor Troutner could be reached Monday for comment, but Melody Skinner, who shared caretaking responsibilities, reported Wolfie died a natural death. He was thought to be about 15 years old. It will be a great loss. He was a sweet boy, Skinner said. His mission in life after he moved into town and people started taking care of him was to keep our end of town free of bears, coyotes, and foxes.
From the Greeley Tribune, in the realm of green-growing businesses across Colorado, the Colorado Town Board members voted Saturday to make the town a little greener in cash and crops. In the first of 3 votes to revise the town's rules on marijuana, the Town Board voted 5-2 on an ordinance to overturn the town's marijuana moratorium, which completely prohibited cultivation and retail sales of the crop. After that, they voted 6-1 to ban retail sales of pot, while allowing its cultivation. Mayor Tom Bender stressed at the meeting that only the growing of marijuana would be allowed within town borders and that any sort of weed retail or dispensaries would be prohibited as long as the current board members remain in charge. In the third vote of the day, the board decided 6-1 to change the zoning of Nunn to allow for an industrial growing district, as the town does not currently have a specific grow zone within its limits. This process needs to be completed before the operators of a proposed 22,000 square foot marijuana greenhouse can begin operations in the town. The town already has agricultural zones, but marijuana does not fall under that category because a license is needed to produce it. Fort Collins-based real estate company St. Noco Acquisitions owns a roughly 50-acre plot of land on the northeastern edge of Nunn. The greenhouse would be run by experts Matthew and William Borrell, who already have experience in the marijuana industry, according to the proposal. One main reason for voting in favor of marijuana cultivation is to see how much money it will generate. And if everything goes as planned, the total would be a decent chunk of change for the town, roughly $35,000 a month when first starting out. According to Callaway, the town would receive 5% of the value of each plant grown in the facility based on the negotiations underway with St. Noco. Both medical and recreational marijuana plants will be grown, and although every board member said they were against the recreational use of the crop, most agreed it would benefit the town's shrinking coffers. The proposal also states the company would provide 24/7 security of the facility at no additional cost to non-residents. After Saturday's votes, the next step will be to decide the details of the new grow zone district, including exact boundaries and location. Callaway said a lot of the specifics still need to be negotiated and decided, but the cultivation of marijuana should turn things around for Dunn.
And now, the Dolores County Sheriff's Roundup for the week of May 16th through May 22nd. A deputy responded to a request for a welfare check. A deputy assisted Colorado State Patrol on a non-injury two-car vehicle accident. A deputy responded to a late-night disturbance at a local business. The case is under investigation. A deputy assisted a motorist in changing of a tire on Highway 491. A juvenile accidentally dialed 911. That's it for today's Roundup. Stay tuned this week for more updates.
And in today's High Country happenings, Saturday, May 28th, Memorial Day celebration starts at 7 a.m. at the American Legion Post 75. Followed by a breakfast, all veterans and their families are invited. For details, call 970-739-4537. And the following Saturday, June 4th, Mesa Verde Backcountry Horsemen have their tax sale from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Montezuma County Fairgrounds. Sellers drop off items on June 3rd, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Horse tack and related items, ag items, art, clothing, boots, and horse trailers are available. 10% commission on items. And for details, call Cindy Clare at 970-882-4255 or visit mesaverdehorseman.com. Also Saturday, June 4th, 10K running race on single track trails will be held at 9 a.m. at Gear Park. All proceeds will go towards local trails through the Montezuma Land Conservancy. All ages and abilities can participate. There will be prizes and raffle items. Register online at ultrasignup.com or race day for $25. All of the event listings are available on our DCTV News at Noon Facebook page. So if you have suggestions, you can email us at dcbnnews@gmail.com or call the station at 677-4119.
Again, thanks for tuning in. This program is aired live at noon and rebroadcast at 2:30 and 8 p.m. on Channel 32.1, Dolores County, on Channel 30.4 in Montezuma County, and their cable Channel 5.
And you can also re-watch the broadcasts on YouTube. Search DCTV News at Noon, and please like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
For Kendra Cook, Jerry Tope, and all those who are working to bring you DCTV and the News at Noon program from Dove Creek, USA, I'm Kelsey Kiesling. See you next time.